Hi everyone and welcome to the second COSY creative session. These are sessions where you can paint or draw along with me. I'm just going to be painting in my sketchbook and today I'm using a new gouache palette that I've put together. So I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment, but it's just a really calm and relaxing painting session. I'm going to be working from some, I would say, images with a woodland autumn kind of theme. And what I will do, if you want to use the same images as me, is I'll put all of these into a post on Patreon and it will be available for all members, including free members. So all you need to do is sign up for free and then you can access the post. I'll put all of the details in the description underneath the video. So yeah, I'm using a new palette today. It is a little gouache palette that I've put together in this cute little tin. Now I was sent this a few months ago, I think back in the summer, by Rose Wildsmith, and you can find her at rosewildsmith.net. It's a really sweet tiny tin. I think it's about the size of one of those Vaseline tins that you can get, and she has 3D printed these little palettes and they stack. I'm a bit reluctant to stack them properly and put them in the tin because I only filled them the other day. As I say, I've had this tin I think since the summer, but I only just got around to deciding what I wanted to put in it. So I'll quickly tell you actually the colours that I have in here in case you're interested in doing something similar or getting some inspiration for your own palettes. So this one is the Daniel Smith Buff Titanium. Then we have the Holbein Yellow Ochre, the Holbein Taisha Brown, the Holbein Smoked Bamboo. You can see that I quite like Holbein gouache paints. This one is the Daler-Rowney Payne's Grey, and this one is the Daler-Rowney Cool Grey 1. So nice selection of earthy colours and a couple of greys. I love a Payne's Grey. I always have to have a Payne's Grey in my palettes pretty much. Right, this one is the Holbein Ash Blue. The Holbein, I'm not sure how you pronounce this, Rikyu Grey. I will put all of the names in the description underneath the video. You can find all of the information you need down there, so just have a look at that. But this one is the Schmincke Designer's Gouache in Umber Greenish. That's a really lovely nature colour, a very natural, earthy, yellowy green. I love it. That's the Holbein Elm Green. That's the Holbein Pine Tree Green. And this one is the Holbein Grey number 3. So blues and greys in there. I would say this cool grey here is kind of bluish as well. So it's like a really pale blue grey. I think what we're going to do is just get started. So grab your materials if you want to draw or paint along with me. So I'm going to be working in a pith sketchbook. I love these sketchbooks because not only do they lay flat, completely flat, but they have really nice thick paper. It's a kind of off-white, ivory, cream-coloured paper. They are quite good at taking some watercolour and gouache, although you can't really scrub at the paper too much. But if you're doing like light layers, they're really good and they're excellent for mixed media. So I've been keeping this book just for online Zoom drawing sessions, which I do with my patrons on Patreon every month. And I also take part in some that Crixus does sometimes too. So I'll just quickly show you what I have in here. Sometimes I use coloured pencils, sometimes coloured pencils and gouache, sometimes just gouache. So this is just gouache. And this is a funny one we did the other day for Halloween. These were all timed and it was trickier than it looked. So yeah, you're not going to see perfection in this sketchbook. This is my sketchbook for having fun and practicing. So this is one I did with Crixus the other day. So I think we'll turn over. Should we do it on this page? I don't really want to do it on the back of that. It might go through. So we'll do it here. And I don't know how long this session is going to be. It's just super relaxed. You can put me on in the background. We can paint together, or I can keep you company while you're working on your own projects. So you may hear some paper rustling off camera here. And that's because I have a list of people's pets that I'm going to read out. Now, this may sound really weird, but a few months ago, I had a few people who contacted me to tell me that their cats and dogs loved listening to my videos, and they really seemed to properly listen to them. And I wrote a community post about this, and I asked whether my subscribers would like to share if their pets were the same. And also, if they gave me the name of their pets, I would read them out during the second COSY Creative session. So I know it's been a long time coming. I meant to film this so much sooner, but I'm going to read out the pets very quickly now, and then we're going to paint. So if you're sitting there with your pet, you may well hear their name. So Monty and Miley, Sachiko, Charles and Holly, Lottie, Chica, Cassie, Daisy, Molly, Jack and Duffy. That's a lot of pets. Buttons and Pebbles. That's very cute. Luna, Remus, Spooky. That's appropriate for the time of year. Mabel and Falcor. Ladybug, Clover and Mungo. Wilhelmina, Lizzie and Charlie. Bear, Pucifer and Omega. Carl, Scruffy Cat, Callie, Kitty Tiger Stripes and Mungo Kitty Pie. Monet, Sam, Mortimer and Pumpkin, Puck and Pixie. I think I've written Puck there. My writing is very scruffy. I wanted to mention also Issy and Ruby, my cats, my mum's cats. Dusty, Buffy, and an honorary mention to the pets who have passed. Legolas, Sophie, and our own dogs, Cadbury and Bertie. So to all the pets out there who may be listening with their owners at the moment, I send you lots of strokes, lots of cuddles, and I hope you have some treats too. Okay, let's get on with the painting. I'm going to try and paint quite loosely. Let's just move those little palettes to the side there because I'm going to be mixing on this ceramic palette. And I'm just going to attempt to keep this as a really fun and loose session. I don't know whether, actually those of you who are newer here may not have seen a video that I did last autumn. It turned into the most popular video on my channel. And it was one where I'm just painting loose in my sketchbook. Well, loose for me. Loose is all relative. And I talk about my struggle to paint loose and to get over the fear of using a sketchbook as well. Actually, I want to start over here, I think. I was going to start over there, but no. So this is something that I have been personally struggling a little bit with because I'm somebody who wanted sketchbooks to be perfect, and I know that this is not the point of sketchbooks. The point of sketchbooks is a place where you can relax and have fun and just experiment and allow yourself to try things that you wouldn't necessarily try on, say, I don't know, a fancy sheet of Archer's watercolour paper. But I'm gradually allowing myself to just enjoy sketchbook work and just say it is what it is. So if it doesn't turn out very good, you've enjoyed the process and you've taken a bit of time for yourself, which I honestly think is so important. Because I'm a professional artist, so this is my full-time job, and it's sometimes even though it's a job I absolutely love and I feel very, very lucky to be able to do, it's also sometimes, it comes with pressure. Let's put it like that. It comes with pressure. And so sometimes working in my sketchbook, it's just like, it's time just for me, where I can experiment and I can have fun, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't work out, because it's not something I'm going to be selling or something that has to look really good that can go like in my portfolio, on my website, you know, that kind of thing. So these aren't going to look perfect, and we're okay with that. Sometimes I'm going to be a bit quiet during this session because it's really hard to talk. I need some grey. It's really hard to talk and to paint at the same time. I find it so difficult sometimes. So you'll have to excuse me if I go a bit quiet occasionally. And because I'm working quite quickly as well, this is another thing. It's not going to be in the way I would normally paint. In fact, shall I just show you some of my pieces that I've made recently? So for those of you who don't know how I normally paint, actually I'm going to go and get them in a second. Let me just finish fiddling with this mushroom. Sounded a bit weird, didn't it? I'll go and get them in a second. But look, everything's running and we're just going to allow it to do that. You see, normally the way I paint is very precise, and I kind of allow certain areas to dry before I then go in and do the next area. And when I'm working in my sketchbook, and when we're kind of doing it against the clock, we're not really doing it against the clock today, but I can't take forever to do these. So obviously there's a limit to the length of the video. So I'm having to work fairly quickly, and it means the paint is going to run, and it means that things aren't going to be perfect, but that's absolutely fine. Okay, I'm just going to go and get, because I realised I didn't do this before I started, I need some kitchen paper. I always have kitchen paper beside me to wipe my brush on, or to even lift out areas of colour. So I'm going to go and get that, and I'm going to go and get some artwork that I've been working on recently and give you a little sneak peek of something that's coming up. Let's just lift out some of this. What I love about using kitchen paper is that it also creates a really interesting texture sometimes. So it's quite useful if you put a bit too much paint on and you just want to lift it out here and there, and you're left with quite an interesting texture too. Just lift out a little bit there. That's quite cool, isn't it? Just do that. Right, I'm going to show you. They're sitting to the side here. You can probably see them on camera. Let's make sure my hands are clean. Right, these are what I have been working on recently. I'm doing some sticker designs. Well, this is the idea, that these are going to be used for stickers, but also I think for other things too. And I shared these on my Patreon the other day. In fact, I filmed the video of the process of working on these and putting together a set of images that can be used for what I'm calling a cozy autumn themed sticker set. So we have little mushrooms or toadstools, whatever you want to call them, a cozy knitted jumper, a little house with the autumn bushes and trees around it, a cup of tea, and a little pile of books, a little blackbird, and I had this small acorn design where we're probably just going to use this as like tiny stickers on the sticker sheet, but this is the way I would normally paint. You know, it's quite precise. It's a kind of illustrative, slightly folk arty style sometimes, but yeah, quite precise. So the way I work outside of a sketchbook is quite different to the way I work inside a sketchbook, and I really like to switch between these two different styles. So there, you've had a little sneak peek of those. So they'll be coming to my shop soon. We're working behind the scenes on all of this at the moment. Lots of new products coming, lots of interesting stuff coming up for Christmas. So if you're interested in seeing my process with these, you can join the Arts and Crafts Club tier on my Patreon, and you will get to see that video plus 70 plus other videos that I have on there. You'll have access to everything. So anyway, I'm going to put these somewhere safe and then we'll get back to doing this. I love how these colours are kind of separating a little bit. It's interesting. I didn't expect them to do that. Let's add a little bit more of a slightly darker brown. But yeah, I've been meaning to do another one of these sessions for YouTube for so long, and I just never got around to it, and I'm sorry about that. Sometimes it takes me a while to get around to things because other things come along and I kind of think, oh well, I'll do that video first, and then sometimes I kind of forget for a while, and then something will remind me and I'll be like, yeah, I never made that video. I get there eventually, most of the time. Right, I want to try, now I've done that, I wonder whether to just see if I put, oh, that's spreading, but I quite like it. We're going to leave that. Happy accident. Just going to make it a little bit lighter under there. But yeah, let's keep that fairly simple. I mean, we could always go in at the end and just add a few details if we want. So there's no pressure whatsoever. I'm not going to work on all of the mushrooms or toadstools from this picture. I'm going to just, I think, pick some and just arrange them how I want to on the page, because there are no rules. I mean, you can do the picture as it is if you want, but I think I'm just gonna, for me personally, just do whatever I feel inspired to do. Yeah, these little palettes are lovely, and I've had success in putting gouache into other palettes. I use the Art Toolkit Palettes, which I have a link for below as well, just check the description. And they've actually been really brilliant for travelling and just for grabbing when I want to do sketchbook work. I find it so useful to have a palette that is kind of just there and ready to go. I find I'm reaching for the gouache paints much more since I put them in a palette as opposed to when they were in a tube. They do crack a little bit sometimes if they dry out, but when you use them and you add water to them again, it seems to sort of bind it all together, so it's not really a problem. But do expect, if you put gouache in a palette, for it to crack a little bit. That will happen. But yeah, as I say, I'm using them so much more now. I don't know why they weren't getting used very much when I had them in tubes. I think it's just that thing where it's like the ease of reaching for something. It's like if you make it easy, you're more likely to use it. Another thing I don't worry about is getting the colours exactly right. I work with a very specific colour palette in my work anyway, so I'm always slightly adjusting colours. So for example, if a mushroom is like the ones I'm doing at the moment, they're like more of a creamy colour, then they're sort of slightly rusty as well. Kind of got rusty, orangey parts. I'm not that bothered about getting the colours exactly right. Certainly not when I'm in my sketchbook and just having fun. So I'm just using them as like inspiration and to give me some ideas for the shapes and textures and all of that, but just have fun with it. I'm going to lift off a little bit here. Maybe we could add a little bit of rustiness to the top, couldn't we? It's just something so relaxing about seeing how the paint colours mix, and I really like this wet in wet technique because you never really know what is gonna happen. So I feel like I'm speaking so slowly. Maybe that's why the cats and dogs like it, because I'm not somebody who's like speaking in that really fast, slightly manic way. But I hope I'm not speaking too slowly. It's really hard to talk when you're painting. That big mushroom I did actually had some moss at the bottom. I don't know whether to add it or not. What do you think? Should I add it? I don't know. I kind of feel like maybe I should just, I don't know whether it's gonna blend that out a bit. I can't scrub at this paper too much or it'll start pilling a little bit, but yeah, it's doing it now. I might just add, because it had some darker areas down here, we'll just add that. But yeah, sketchbooks are great because you can just, I don't know, you feel freer to experiment and just see how the materials behave. Whereas if I was doing this on an expensive piece of paper, I would be really worried and inhibited. It kind of makes me feel like, right, this has to be perfect. I can't experiment because if it goes wrong, I'm going to be annoyed that I've wasted the paper. Now, just bear in mind that you've never really wasted anything, because anytime you're working and you're practicing, it's never wasted. So don't ever think that you're wasting materials. The only wasted materials are materials that sit in your studio and they're untouched and never used. That is wasting materials. So just use those materials. If you have lovely supplies that you're not wanting to use because you're thinking, I'm going to keep those for a special occasion or when I'm better at doing this or that, and I don't know, whatever the reason is, you're not using them. Just ignore what your brain is saying, and I had to stop there because the computer went off, and I'm looking at the picture on the screen, and I had to put the computer back on again. It went to sleep, so there's a little weird part there where it seems like a bit disjointed, that's why. But yeah, what was I saying? I was saying that you need to just override what your brain says about keeping your materials for best and just use them. And don't be scared to use them and experiment with them. And this was the thing I had with sketchbooks. I'd buy amazing sketchbooks and then I just wasn't using them because I was so scared that if I started using them and I made a mistake, especially on the first couple of pages, that it would then be ruined and I wouldn't want to use it because I'd feel like, oh, well, I've ruined the sketchbook now. But it's so silly. It's such a silly way of thinking. And thankfully, I've kind of got over that now. It still comes back a little bit now and again, but generally speaking, I'm much better. It's so lovely to sit here and just calmly paint. I thought if I film this video for you, I'll make sure that I do sit down and just do a little bit of work in my sketchbook, because I've actually got to work this afternoon on some big canvas paintings that I'm doing for my next shop update, which will be coming up, I think probably early December, to be honest. I was hoping for end of November, but I'm thinking probably early December. But yeah, there'll be acrylic on canvas paintings, and that's a totally different type of painting. It's very, it's really enjoyable and really satisfying, but it's also, you know, a little bit more high pressure, high stress. So it's nice for me to kind of start my painting session today by doing this, and hopefully it's going to inspire you too. I hope so. So I'm just going to lift off. Maybe we can get some interesting texture. It might be a bit too wet, I don't know, but maybe a little bit more there. Loving these colours. I'm just using one size of brush for this. I thought I was going to use the smaller ones, but I'm actually liking the fact that it's allowing me to just keep it loose and not be too precise. I think if I go into using like these, let me just show you these smaller brushes, I think I'm going to end up getting too tight, and I don't want to do that. So I'm using a Princeton Aqua Elite round number 4, if you want to know what it is I'm using. So I'm just going to pop in, let's pop a couple of little tiny mushrooms in there. Some little tiddlers. Looks funny, doesn't it? I'm going to make him a little bit bigger. Okay. Gosh, my tummy's rumbling. Apologies. It's nearly lunchtime, so I'm not surprised it's rumbling. Actually, I'm thinking I might, because I've got some lovely greens here. Let's get some of that. What's it called? Umber Greenish. Let's get some of the Umber Greenish. And can I just do at the bottom of this one, because it does have some like moss and stuff. Moss and stuff. That was descriptive, wasn't it? Let's just do some fun little bits of moss coming off that. Look at that colour, it's just gorgeous. Yeah, don't forget I'll list the colours. They're not going to be links or affiliates or anything like that. They'll just be for your reference. I'm going to get some green here, but I want to make that green a little bit. I don't know whether you can see this, whether this is off camera or not, but let's make that. Oh no, I've made it too grey. Let's make that green a little bit dirtier. There we go. So I basically took the pine tree green, the Holbein pine tree green, and mixed it with the grey number 3. And it's made it just a bit dirtier, a bit darker. And yeah, that's kind of what we need. Yeah, there was a time I would never have allowed myself to paint like this. Isn't this funny when you think about it? Like I'd have been, that's not, oh no, that's not precise enough. I haven't done that right. Or I haven't done that bit of moss exactly as it is. But you're not wanting to take a photograph, you're just wanting to get an impression. And yeah, it took me a long while to change my mindset, like my way of thinking about all of this. Now, do I put a little bit of moss down here? Should we do it? I don't know. Maybe it's enough to have that one mossy. I kind of want to add a little bit. Let's see. I don't know whether this is going to run or not. Let's have a look. So it's all just experimentation. Just going to add a little bit of buff titanium. Oh, there, it's spreading nicely. Lovely. A little buff titanium on him as well. Maybe a little bit on him. Maybe a little bit on them. Yeah, those are a bit drier, so it's not running as much, but it just gives them a little bit of a highlight on that side. Yeah, when I was putting together this little palette, I thought I'll just use colours. Like I want a good range of 12 colours that are really my kind of landscape and nature colours. And I know that all of these colours will just work beautifully together. And so by using this palette, it's like whatever I create with it is going to look quite harmonious. That makes sense? Okay, let's try and do, it's like a really dark, I'm going to get a bit of the Payne's grey as well, mix that in with that dark brown, and we will do a little dark brown mushroom down here. What's the difference between a mushroom and a toadstool? Is a mushroom one you can eat and a toadstool isn't? I don't know. Anyway, I'm using the terms interchangeably. Is that a word? What am I even talking about? I don't know. It's like my brain, other parts of my brain shut down when I'm painting. I need to concentrate just on the painting. This kind of has little white bits. I should have left some there. And what I'm going to do is let's see if we can lift out just some of that. Yeah, like that. I don't want it to look too heavy. Make it a bit darker there. This is so much fun. I hope you're enjoying it too, if you're painting along with me. Let me know in the comments below, are you just watching me and watching what I do? Are you I don't know, painting along with me, or are you just listening to me in the background while you work and you're occasionally looking up to see what I'm doing? I'd love to know. I'd love to know what people do when they're watching my videos, particularly videos like this where you can join in. Do you know, I really love, I just really love painting mushrooms. I don't know why it's so enjoyable. Oh yeah, let that run. Let's let that run. That looks good. See, happy accidents. Yeah, I think maybe, should we leave him like that? I'm just gonna, I think, actually I'm thinking maybe, should we say that's it with the mushrooms and go on to something else? Because I wanted this to be sort of woodland themed, so maybe that's what we do. Maybe I'll go on to something else. I think what I'm going to do actually is get a slightly smaller brush, and this might be quite fun just to add like some little, now I hope I'm not going to mess this up. Oh no, I can't mess it up. I have to keep telling myself it's not messing it up. But I really like the simplicity of it. I was kind of like, well, what if I just put, and if we really hate this, we can just, I don't know, cover it up or something. I thought it might be quite nice to add a bit of, because it's kind of got some sort of pattern, texture. Do you like that? I do quite like it actually, I think. I don't want to overdo it. Just blend. Blending is your friend. Thinking, do I leave those there? Maybe I don't fiddle. Let's just leave those. I'm going to go and choose another woodland themed picture and we'll move on to something else. It's now actually after lunch. I took a break, had my lunch, or my tummy would have been rumbling all the way through this. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on to a tree picture. So I'm working from a photograph of what looks like a very late autumn or winter tree. It's got a few leaves on it. It's kind of a close-up of the tree trunk, and then there's a thinner branch with some kind of crispy autumnal looking leaves on it. So we're going to just do this, and then we're going to see how much time we've got, or how much space we've got on the page, because once I've filled this page we're done. Okay, so let's try and get the interesting colours and textures of this tree. So if you're following along with me, hopefully you've got the image open. I kind of want to leave, because I have a third image that I want us to work from, and I want to put it down there. How am I going to do this? Because the branches are coming out. Oh, that might be all right. It might be all right. Get some grey, mix it with a bit of buff titanium, make a slightly sort of brownish grey. Let's just fill this in, then we're going to add tree trunk kind of mapped in. Okay, so we want some of that lovely, I'm going to get that green that I mixed up earlier because it's got this lovely moss growing on it. Actually I need to, let's mix up a bit more of that colour. Get a nice dark green. That's better. So we're just going to see where that moss is on there and kind of just fill it in. Just roughly where we can see. As I said earlier, we're not trying to take a photo, we're just getting an impression of what this looks like. It really is quite mossy, but what I want to do is add a little bit of reddish brown here. Even though the real tree looks very green, I feel like this looks too green to me, so I'm wondering whether I try and tone it down a bit. So we'll bring in a little bit of this brownish grey kind of colour, and we will just try and tone that down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is go in with my trusty kitchen paper and I'm going to just take out some of that colour. Just get some interesting texture on there too. And I want to add, there's like a little knot in the tree, kind of around. Oh, that went a bit blobby. I actually meant to do it a bit more precisely than that, but oh well, maybe that will do. It wants to be like that, so be it. So I'm just gonna get a little bit darker up there. As I said, we just want to get an impression. I'll just let the paint run a little bit. We just add a little bit of a few lines and a few marks. I want to make it a little bit darker, because when you're painting you have to kind of think about tone or value and the contrast in a piece, so you want there to be a nice range of tone. So if you're thinking that things look a little bit too, I don't know, all too mid-tone, all the same, and you want a little bit more contrast, don't be scared to just add a little bit extra like I'm doing now, and it just kind of gives it a slightly more, it gives it slightly more variation in the tone basically. Right, so I've got the main part of the tree in there. See if I can actually just make that little bit there. There we go, that's better, isn't it? Yeah, that is a bit better. Okay, so we're gonna, actually I'm gonna get a thinner brush. I'm gonna get this tiny one because we want to do some really quite delicate branches. So I'm just getting some of the Payne's grey and the brown to make a nice dark colour. Because this little twiggy branch that's coming off the tree is quite a lot darker, so we might have to use some artistic license so that we don't collide with that mushroom. But that's fine because you're using this as just like a reference and a guide. It doesn't have to be exact. So if you look at a tree and you get overwhelmed by the branches, like I used to, you don't have to do them exactly because no one's going to know. Trees grow in an infinite number of ways. So branches can be infinitely different. And no one's going to know whether your branches are or were exactly like that or not. Does that make sense? It's kind of got one that looks like it's going back and then sort of round and up. So we're going to take it round, and obviously it's running a bit because that's still wet, but that is okay. I'm going to do some of the little twiggy bits coming off. We'll add the leaves last. Just give it some little just kind of shoots coming off there. Do that like that. And then and it kind of goes across the tree a bit as well. Trying to see, it's hard to see because they're like a tangle of branches, so we're just going to do a rough approximation of what we see. And then over like that, up there. I feel like there are a lot more branches than what I'm actually doing, but I don't want to overcomplicate it. I mean, if it really bothered you, you could wait for all of this to dry and then go back in and go over this so it's a bit more precise. But I'm kind of liking this loose, washy kind of look. So I think we are going to leave it. Okay. Now we need a lovely sort of coppery colour. I'm going to get my bigger brush again. I'm going to get some of that reddish brown and just mix it in with sort of brownish grey I've got here because we don't want it too bright. And then I'm just going to, we're literally going to put the leaves in like this. I'm not going to fuss. We're just going to kind of see how they are attached to those branches and how they look. I mean, they're quite gappy, they're quite sparse because it's obviously like late autumn, early winter. Just a few leaves left. Not going to show up a lot on the or against the tree trunk here, but that's fine. I love going for a walk in the forest when it's winter time and you just see a few of the leaves like this. You get to really see the structure of the tree. It's so nice. I have so many nice memories of going on walks like that. And they get quite sparse up here. So I think we might leave it there. Might just perhaps try and lift out. So just to add a little bit of highlight, a bit more variation in tone and a little bit more texture. But I think we're actually going to leave that now. So I think we'll call that one done. And then I'm going to move on to a little owl in a tree. So we're going to pop him in there. And then I think we'll call this page done. And I usually like to write something about the session on the page. So you can do that with yours as well. You can kind of decorate the page with the date and a title and anything you like really, any notes you want to make. Now I'm going to be honest and say I don't think I'm great at owls. I'm trying to think about how to do this and I'm wondering whether just to get the buff titanium, mix it in with the paint I already have on the palette, so the browns, sort of like making a sort of muted, I don't even know what to call this colour, like a reddish beige, I don't know what to call it, but I'm just gonna start by, I think the best way is to just kind of get the basic shape of the owl. Because I know if I was doing this as like a proper painting, I would be spending hours on this owl. But we haven't got hours. So we're just gonna basically mark it. So he's kind of poking out. He's in like a tree trunk. There's a hole in the tree trunk and he's kind of poking out a little bit. He's got his eyes closed and he's having a little sleep. So the tree kind of goes up like that. So I think I'm going to squint my eyes a little bit so I just sort of see the outline of him. And I don't know whether I've got the shape exactly right. But I think what we'll do is we're going to just fill him in. I mean, this may look like a very, very strange owl, or it might be okay. I'm making no promises. So we want to put the tree in there. We'll just mark where the tree goes. It's going to be really dark around part of his head. What do I do? Maybe I start filling the owl in. You see, I almost didn't choose this one because I thought, is this going to be too difficult for me to do on camera? But we're just going to do it. So now I'm kind of like just seeing where his markings are vaguely. So his little face kind of there. I think I may have done that down a little bit too low. Get some slightly lighter. Come there. I think I might be able to hear fireworks in the background. It's actually got dark. It gets dark so early now. And I got back to this later than planned. I'm going to lift that bit out. I really struggle with owls. I don't know why I struggle with them so much. I'm good at birds. But I find owls really difficult. Okay, so let's just think he's got his little eyes are closed. I feel like, I don't know, that I'm going to have to, no, I mustn't. I was going to say I'm going to have to cheat and dry it with the hairdryer, or it's just going to end up one big blob. No, maybe I'll carry on for now. So just put in his little feathers there. So if we imagine the beak is going to go there. Okay, let's just fill him in. Yeah, every time I've tried to do an owl quickly, I feel like it's just so hard, because it's something that I would always take my time to do. But you've got to face your fears. If it's something that scares you, just paint it anyway. Like lots of lines, little thin lines on this tree trunk. So I'm just going to put them in very, very loosely. Yeah, I really feel like owls are something I need to practice. I don't know why I find them so scary to do. Okay, I'm going to get some dark brown. I'm just going to I might simplify this and just do the dark brown around him. In the picture there's kind of dark brown and then it goes into the sort of bark of the tree stump again, or tree trunk rather, sorry. Flatten out his head a little bit. It's the great thing about doing a dark background, you can go round the shape you've done if you don't like it. Why did I choose to do this? I'm regretting my life choices at this moment in time. I wish I'd just kept this page to trees and mushrooms. you know, this will tell a story, this page, when it's finished. So actually I would say that gives more. Gosh, this is hard. Okay, keep going. Let's keep going. Let's put some darker bits in here. Maybe we'll just define the edge here a little bit. It has quite a few darker feathers. I think this is a tawny owl. Okay, I've got to remember his little beak is there. And I don't have a white, but I do have the buff titanium, and I also have kitchen paper. So we could perhaps, I don't know whether we're going to be able to lift out, not really are we, because I think the underneath layer has dried. Okay, let's try the buff titanium. White is quite useful to have a white sometimes, but oh, this is quite nice. I like the effect. I wasn't expecting it to run quite as much, but maybe this is what we need. Paint's taking so long to dry at the moment because it's November and it's cold. Yeah, the house is quite cold, and I noticed that my paintings are taking a long while to dry. I feel like this is just becoming very splodgy. I kind of feel like I need to let it dry, and then we can kind of go in. Do you know what? I think I'm going to have to give it a few minutes to dry. So I'm going to come back in a few minutes, and then we can add some more defined elements. And I think that's what we need to do. It's just going to end up looking like a great big blob. We're going to attempt to finish this owl now, but in the meantime, I decided to decorate the page as I would normally do. And I just used the paint that was on the palette and loosely wrote details about this session, and I really love the look of that. I think it's a really fun way to add something extra to your sketchbook pages. I tried to keep it loose. I wasn't too fussed about the writing looking really nice. It's just to add another element, and it reminds me of what the session was when I did it and all of that. So that just gives you an idea of how you could perhaps decorate your page if you wanted to. But I think what I'm going to try and do is, first of all, I'm going to go round the owl and try to make him a bit more defined. So let's see if I can do that. I don't want to tighten it up too much, but I do want to make it stand out a little bit more. This has been by far the trickiest one. I'm just gonna go around him like that. I'm really gonna have to try not to fuss too much, because I do tend, if I'm not doing things quickly, I'll tend to get really precise and really tight. So we're gonna try not to do that. They're like his little eyebrows, those bits. I literally don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna add some darker feathers. I mean, I'd like to have some, you know, proper time to really try some owls properly. And I keep meaning to do that, but I somehow don't get around to doing it. So I'm going to get a slightly smaller brush. I want to make his eyes a bit more defined. Looks so sweet. Oh, that's better. Let's do the little beak. I'm just going to do the beak like that. His beak is actually paler, but I feel like it needs to be a bit more defined. I'm also going to make it, I've got the Payne's grey, by the way, at the moment. It's a lovely dark colour if you want something to add a dark tone but you don't want it to be black. Payne's grey is your friend. I think we'll just do it like that. At least he's looking more owl-like, isn't he? I'm kind of pleased with that. I don't want to fiddle with it too much. One idea I have had, let's just see how this really pale grey, rather than using the buff titanium, let's use this and just see whether it adds a nice element, like a highlight. Yeah, it does actually, doesn't it? Sorry, you might be able to hear them drilling in the rest of the house. Or the other part of the house, rather. Right, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave it there, because I feel like we've actually captured the essence of the owl without getting too over the top. And kind of making it way too tight and detailed. There's just one little thing I want to do. So there's a little bit extra there, and also there's like a little, kind of comes out a little bit there. There. Okay, we're going to leave him now. At least he looks like an owl and he looks more defined. Okay, we're going to down tools and call this the end of the session. So I hope you had a lot of fun if you followed along. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you were just taking some time to have a cup of tea and put your feet up and watch me, or if I kept you company during your own studio session, or whether you're working on a project, wherever you are, let me know what you thought of this session. Let me know whether you learned anything, whether you would like me to do more of these. Yeah, just leave me a comment and let me know that you made it to the end. If you did make it to the end, say Autumn Woodland in the comment section and I'll know that you were one of the few people who made it right to the end of this session. Okay, thanks everyone. I'm going to go now, but I will see you again soon. Take care and have a really good November. Bye for now.